Welcome back to Operator Syndrome. We're here with Jose, and we're actually, this is the last episode with Jose for now. We may see
Yes.
him in the future. You never know. But we're rounding out the story of his career in the 75th Ranger Regiment and the 3rd Ranger Battalion. We left off talking about winding down his experience in the sniper section, multiple deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq, mostly Afghanistan, though, as a sniper team member and as a sniper team leader. And we we started to get to like one of the those tough subjects that require you know uh hard men to talk about emotions, those type of things, and then we punted because that's what we do. But we're coming back around to it. So we were talking about um an ill-fated raid that happened to First Platoon B Company of the Third Ranger Battalion. Um, in the in-between time, you would have thought I would have done more research, but I don't remember exactly when that occurred. It would have been in the mid-teens, 20 teens sometime. And what occurred is it's basically like the nightmare scenario. So anyone listening, if you've ever been on a raid, what happened that night is the stuff of nightmare. Um, uh, IEDs everywhere. Um, your best friends trapped in a minefield. People doing their damnedest to rescue folks and dying because of it.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things we did quickly look up was the official name of the unit of the two women officer females who were supporting the Ranger platoon that night, and it was called CST is what the name of their unit was. Uh, and and so from my I'll just say quickly from my perspective. So I had been out for a few years at that point. Um, but and for me, it was a jarring thing to hear. First off, I wouldn't have wanted to hear that happen to anybody, of any unit. It sounded horrible what happened. But to hear that it was the Rangers and it was Bico, and oh my God, it's first platoon.
Yeah.
That's like my platoon. That's the only platoon I had been in. It's the only group I had served with. Um, and then it really got weird for me when when they show pictures of the KIA, and one of them's wearing the same call sign that I wore for a bunch of deployments. And for those of you who don't know, like uh, at least in the Ranger Regiment, we don't use call signs. We don't use call signs like fighter pilots have call signs. We don't have like cool nicknames like like Thrasher, Thrasher, or like Marshmallow Man. We have it's a combination of letters and numbers, and the call sign belongs to a specific role that you're in, and so it's passed down. So there would have whatever my call sign was when I served. That's a call sign that someone in Mogadishu had, and is going to be a call sign probably that someone in a war 20 years from now might be using. And so when I saw that guy with that call sign, I was like, that was really wild to me. And as we're starting to talk about Jose's transition out of the military and how difficult that can be, at the time I'm sitting in a cubicle in Cincinnati, Ohio, I think it was, you know,
Okay.
and I'm looking and now and I'm dealing with that, and now I'm seeing this horrific thing that happened to my old unit. And so that stirred up a lot of emotion in me. But for you, now taking it back to you, for you, same thing, all the same things that I'm feeling, but you knew these guys a lot better than I did. You said you were just on the previous deployment with them, and it just so happened to be the deployment where you said, "Hey, I need to take a knee. I need to take a knee real quick because I've been working for 9 deployments straight here. Like, I need to tend to my family, which you absolutely deserve." And then this goes down. So, um, were you deployed? So you talked about how you transitioned to being
Yeah.
the headquarters company, Armorer. And for those who don't know, Armorer is basically the guy who's in charge of all the weapons when they're not signed out, but also the maintenance of those things and the security of those things. So it's
Yes.
not a combat role, but it's a very important role. It's a big
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah. It's a
So
little bit laid back though, but definitely a big deal for any armor.
so were you, and you mentioned that they still deployed you anyways. So they said,
Yeah.
yeah, take a knee, but actually, no, we do need you to go forward. Were you
Yeah.
overseas when that thing went down?
I was overseas. I was I kind of served as the you know, I was in charge of all the way from the weapons, all the way from the weapons to helping the headquarters guys, deliveries. I was just kind of like, bouncing around. But one thing I did do a lot was I would make my way down to the jock a lot. You know what I mean? Because every time there was a mission, you know how the jock gets the opportunity to see it live,
Right.
So I still wanted to go out. I guess once you're there, you're like, why don't I want to go out too?
Yeah.
But that particular mission, I remember, mind you, they don't tell me anything. I'm not because that's at the jock and it stays at the jock. And if I just happened, I heard what was going on. We actually got to see some of it live. Uh,
Oh my God.
it was happening, and yeah, man, it was a bad situation. I'll be honest with you, I didn't know who the platoon was when
Mm,
I first got there. No, all I know is these guys are taking contact, and they were in a bad spot.
mm-hmm.
And it started off with that door blowing up, and then dudes running from the back of the building, and we do our pursuit. But I think and you look at it now, and you can go back. Well, we should have done this, or they should have done this, or they should have done that. But I guess people forget. I think it's like a fight. When you're in, if you anybody's ever boxed before, you have a plan. I'm gonna do this and this and this. But as soon as the guy hits you right in the face, you're like, oh Christ, and you just go into survival mode. For the most part, I think Rangers have always been able to keep their cool and just follow the procedures, the technical procedures that we have. And I know they did that. It's just that it was a really bad situation. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They those dudes, they did their best, and that's why you don't have as many casualties, I think. And but I think that they just had the upper hand on the preparing for us to come.
And
I
just
think,
and let me interject real quick. In some respects we haven't done justice. So there were like I believe it was 5 killed in action. There were 12, 15 wounded in action that
yes, sir.
night. So we're looking at a strike force. This is years past. I don't think it's too sensitive to say. Strike force probably between 40 guys, probably all
Yeah.
together, enablers, the
Enablers,
platoon,
yeah.
everybody. And half of them half of them killed or wounded in action. That's
Mhm.
incredible.
Yeah.
That just doesn't happen. In some of the worst stories you've heard, some of the worst stories you've heard out of this past 20 years, um, they didn't have 50% casualties within the span of
Yeah.
minutes, you know? And um, so that goes down. So you see, were you co-located? You weren't, so you weren't co-located with the platoon?
No, I was
Okay.
not. I
They
was,
were stationed, so they were posted somewhere else. Okay.
yes, sir.
Um, so that happens. So when you find out that it's first platoon, I mean, I'm sure you're shocked, you're freaked out. Um, and you had just mentioned to me before we started recording that you had something to do with the notification process or with
Yeah.
the
So
two CST
one of the
individuals.
CSTs, her mother was Hispanic. She was Hispanic, but her mother was Hispanic. She didn't speak English. And as the military does, when you have a casualty, they send a letter and condolences, if you will. But it had to be written in Spanish, right? And so I guess the task came on to me because I speak Spanish and such, and I tell you what, man, I didn't write that. Some higher up did that. And I'm sure they meant everything, because as you translating it, you know, it's heartbreaking, man. It's
Yeah.
heartbreaking, and because that these women, they're not just doing any job. They're doing a very high, uh, dangerous, intense job, as it proved to be, with men that they go, that they go hard all the time, and it's not an easy place to be in, not an easy group of people to work with, because of how high speed, I guess I want to say, these guys work, and but they're here, man. Those females are here. Those women are doing great, and and then this happens. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And it felt sad translating this, because I'm just thinking of the response, or what's the mentality gonna be on the parent side. 'Cause I'm a parent. You know what I mean? Imagine a parent getting this letter. And but it just goes to show you, man, that you know it sucks. It sucks, but it was, I don't know. It was sad to have to do, but
Hmm.
sad
That's
moment.
incredible. I mean, until today, I didn't know that,
Yeah.
that you'd helped out with that.
But that's as far as it. One thing I didn't know, like I said, I didn't know it was first platoon, man. I because I remember there was one gentleman that I didn't know was the first platoon. I thought he was like in second,
Mm.
and but maybe they were joint. I don't remember, but some survivors of that. Afterwards, you're like, fuck, man. They explained to you some of the stuff, and you're like, why, I didn't know that. You know what I mean? Because you see some of it. I saw some of it on ISR,
Hmm.
and on that, as it was going, but I kind of moved myself away from it too, because you got higher ups and everything's, they're doing stuff, so
Yeah.
I got the way. But yeah, it's incredible, man, that these guys went through it, and thankfully, it wasn't more casualties, and they did what Rangers do, and they pulled through, and completed the mission, is to the best of their ability. So that's good.
So around this, so around this time, connecting it to my experience before I'd even left, officially signed out of the military, signed out on final leave. At a certain point, I had to hand over the reins of whatever I was doing. At the time, I was, a squad leader, mostly in name only, because
Yeah,
we knew I wasn't deploying, but I
yeah.
was doing some training cycle events with the squad I was working with. Um, but at a certain point, they're like, "All right, well, you're actually leaving, so you're not the squad leader anymore. You're nothing, actually." And then
Yeah,
I'm just sort of like a dude hanging out all of a
yeah.
sudden. Um,
Trying to tell guys
that
like,
was
what, ouch.
if I were smart, I would have been out on an appointment, getting ready to leave. And I mostly did that as much as as much as I could. But um, but for me, some of the difficulties in transitioning happened before I'd even left Georgia. Like I started having, and I couldn't figure out why. I was like, wow, all of a sudden I sleep like dog shit at night. Like I was unable to sleep and I couldn't figure it out. Now part of that, and it wasn't just because I was on that Murphy bed. It was it was
Remember that?
because I was sleeping like a baby beforehand. But now all of a sudden I'm tossing and turning. I'm not really sleeping. And I couldn't figure out why. I was like, wow, this is so weird. All of a sudden I don't sleep anymore. Um, and now I look back and I know it's because now I was starting subconsciously, at least, to confront the fact that I'm unwinding myself from the
Yeah,
Rangers.
yeah,
And so that started right away where I'm stripped of, well, I'm a Ranger team leader or a squad leader. I'm a Ranger, shooter, assaulter guy. That's who I am. And now all of a sudden I'm confronted with the fact, oh, that's not who I am. When you move to the armor position, were you already starting to feel that kind of weirdness inside you?
yes. But
Yeah.
I mean, I could still sleep. I was, 'cause remember, I was doing it mainly because I got to get my kids to come over.
Yeah.
So my concern was, let's go do this armor stuff for a little bit throughout the day. I
Mhm.
have more freedom of movement. I
Mhm.
can go because I have, I was the NCO. I
Mhm.
see, right? So
Yeah.
I would have guys, hey, stay here, you know, check out weapons if you have to. I'll be back. And I would go to maybe my kid's appointment or my kid's practice or something,
Yeah.
I missed a lot of throughout their lives, and and so, but now I got to do it. So that was one great thing about being there. But so I didn't really mind not being there. But then I would hear all this cool stuff, that maybe and that, like maybe they would have new scopes, new night vision devices, new stuff they can train with, and all that stuff came through me because I'm the armor. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Wow, they're gonna get to use that. Wow, like the new helmets. I still had, like you see that picture behind me. I had like the smallest helmet ever, throughout my whole first couple years of the military. I think they did it on purpose because I look funny with it. But now they're getting these new cool Call of Duty looking helmets, and
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, So you kind of want to see how that's gonna come out, but at the
Right.
same time, the fact that I get to see my family a little bit more, spend more time, kind of just overpowered that.
Okay.
But where I did start seeing it, um, was after my last deployment.
Okay.
And I came back and I was like, yeah, I'm leaving. So this is it. You know what I mean? And I started transitioning everything that I was the headquarters platoon sergeant at the time, which doesn't really mean much, I don't think. But you have to give that back. Now you have to give it to the next guy. And I go, well, this is what you're gonna do, and this is what I do, how I do it. And I had to go back to the arms room and just double check that everything's there, even though I wasn't the armor anymore. Um, and once I had done that, and I'm excited, I started cleaning all my stuff and I'm gonna send it back. So it hasn't really hit me yet. I think when it hits me is after I give all the stuff and I'm just kind of waiting.
Right.
And what hits me is I've been doing this for the last I don't know how many years. And before that, I remember, I don't know if you remember the early interview. I was just this is the best I've been, right? In
Mhm.
my whole life. The army was a great thing for me. It made me better than I was. But now I don't have it. I'm not gonna have it anymore. So I have to go back to the beginning. And that's okay because I'm more prepared, I think. I see myself. But also the reality is that I have to get a job. You ever seen have you seen a Major Pain? It's the movie
You know
of
it. I probably
okay.
own the DVD somewhere.
I have the VHS now, but there's a scene where he's in a hotel room after he gets out of the service. He's like, and the harsh reality is, I have to get a job. And that's how it was.
Yeah.
And I started looking, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that, and I have all these things. So I'm keeping myself mentally strong. That's gonna happen. The moment I leave, I sign out the last piece of paperwork, and I'm like, okay, I'm out. That's when that's when it really hit. I
Yeah.
mean, like, hey, I was like, I couldn't sleep. I'll tell you that much. I was like, I would lay there and I'm like, well, I had some money saved up, so we were okay for a little bit. So I was like, well, I gotta go back to Texas. Yeah, I've been sending applications into Texas and building a resume. But the thing is, I love Texas, but the truth is, unless you have some kind of certification in something, man, you're starting from the very bottom, which is fine.
Mhm.
But I don't have the that's not privilege, but yeah, I don't have that opportunity to start from the bottom.
Yeah.
I got somewhere mid level because I got a lot of kids, and these guys like to eat. So I was like, all right, so that was troubling. And then when I got so I moved ahead to Texas, left my family in Georgia because we had the red paint for a couple months. And I was like, well, just give me a little bit. I'm gonna find me a job, place, and mind you, the military has a lot of stuff that can help you transition to a job. So it's not like the military doesn't help. It's just that I didn't want to do those things. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And all those jobs that they have were gonna keep me away from my family as well.
Mhm.
Like becoming an 18-wheeler driver, a truck driver. I don't want to do that. I don't want to climb towers
Right.
to go fix a fan and then I don't want to put myself in danger in that area
Right.
anymore. And So I went back to Houston, and I stayed with my folks for a little bit, which is cool. And then and then I just started working, man. I got a couple construction jobs here and there as I was putting applications in for better jobs. But I realized very soon that again, if you're not certified in something, then you're gonna be sucking. So I went to school. I went to not college because that's another thing. I don't have the time for that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go to like technical schools, and I got some technical certifications, and started off with like a small like I got the ACE air conditioning technical certification and electrical technical certification, and they got me a job where they started paying me small, but little by little you get up there, and so now we're good.
Problem solved.
That's it. That's all you
We're
got to do.
we're good. End the episode. We're good.
Yeah.
Transitioning is you have highs and lows, and I've been out 23. It's 23 now. So I've been out. I spent some time in the National Guard, which I talked about. It's all right. So we'll say 10 years, and how good I feel about it changes, sort of day to day, as most things do. Um, I've yet I've yet to shake it. You know, you can't
Can,
help but.
can I ask you a question? How long did it take you
Mhm.
to in, to learn how to interact with uh like
People,
your
human beings.
yes, your coworkers or people?
Uh, I mean, I'm still trying to figure that out. But in terms of like, there was moments where, if I look back, there are moments where I was like, "What the fuck were you thinking?" You know, it's
You
like,
can't say that.
well, no, you can't. I remember I never like flew off the handle, and for me, like it was even worse because I left I left the Rangers. I went to college. I
Oh,
studied business, and then I became like a corporate stooge. So like in the corporate world is like its own whole other own thing. Um, which you can probably you get all the jokes about it if you've never worked like a corporate job are pretty much true. Um, so it's like, was that movie Office Space? I mean, that's pretty accurate, except there's less. It's not as funny. It's not funny in real. When
it's
you're
more
living it,
sad.
it's not. When you're living it, it's not funny. Um, but I remember one time specifically, some lady, some lady wrote some lady that I had helped with something or helped her team with something. She was actually like their director or something. I'd gone out of my way to help their team with something that I didn't necessarily have to do. And the director of that group wrote some like passive aggressive email. I'm rolling my eyes for those people who can't. She wrote some sort of passive aggressive email given, sort of given shit about that work. I can't remember exactly what it was. Um, and then there was an and like I was pissed. I was thinking to myself, first off, it's not my job. That's your people's job. Second off, I didn't need to help your people. I did it anyways because I'm a team player. And then you're gonna write some email with a bunch of other. This is like the ultimate insult in the corporate world. You got a bunch of bosses copied on this email, and I was furious, like furious, like triggered veteran furious, you know. And my boss is like, he's like, Patrick, don't go up there, don't go up there, and I'm like fuming, dude. Like, if she were a dude, I would have fucking fought that person. Like I would have thrown down. I would have gotten fired from that job. Like I had an unhinged moment.
Yeah.
And he's like, Patrick, don't go up there. I'm like, this motherfucker. I'm getting up and he's like, do not go up there. Do not. And I feel like I ignore my boss and I go, like the elevator was taking too long. I'm like smashing the buttons and the elevator's taking too long. And I take the stairs. And as I'm walking up the stairs, I'm like, fuck, I just blew off my ball. As I'm walking up the stairs, like I'm slow, like the stairs are each step is slowly like, you fucking idiot, what are you doing? And
Yeah.
I get up to the top, I get up to the top and I get all the way to that lady's desk. And then I was still like, first off, I had climbed up like 2 flights of stairs, so I was huffing and puffing a little bit. So that kind of like took the wind out. And then
You
I
might have the upper hand at that fight.
and then by the time I got to her desk, I was like, I just like completely punked out. I was like, I was like, hey, I saw your email, if there, let me know what it is, what your concerns are with XYZ. We'll be happy to take a look at it again. By the way, like your team asked us to do this, so they're the ones who blah 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 blah. And she was like, oh, okay. This was nothing to her. But
Yeah.
like I was full on freaking vet bro triggered.
You,
And
you
then and
get your fist balled out the whole time. A very nice
I rip my suit and tie off, and I've got like the Ranger Up T-shirt underneath. Just kidding. I've never worn Ranger Up. No offense to them, great stuff, but I don't wear that shit. So, and then I go back downstairs. My boss is like, he's like, dude, he's like, I could, he's like, I could, you, he's like, you can't do that. You can't just do that. And I'm like, yeah, I know, you're right. I'm a fucking idiot. And to your question, like I came very close to blowing it. And there's probably like one or two other moments like that, but those moments were also like those moments as I self-reflect back on it, my reaction was poor. You can't do that, right? I've been out long enough to know like if we were in the company AO and some guy's talking shit in another platoon, you go and handle it. You're going to go
Yeah.
directly at him. You're young, you're, full of testosterone, and you got all your boys who are going to back you up.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
like, you're just going to go handle it and squash it really quickly. Hey, what the fuck are you talking about? Do you have a problem? Like, why are you calling me out like that? Like, what's the deal? And you can't
You know
do
what
that.
it is it's the but not the brotherhood, but the yeah, the brotherhood, man, the camaraderie, the togetherness that I got your back and you got my back, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have that here. Everybody, to me, is a tread lightly. I don't trust anybody.
True. But the other thing is like for someone, even for someone in another platoon to pull some shit like that would be in the culture of the
Mhm.
company would be such a betrayal, right?
Yeah,
It would be like it's such a high offense, to do that. You
yeah,
really got to be a piece of shit to play. And people do it and it happens, but those guys are pieces of shit. And we all recognize it, right? It's like, why are you throwing, Patrick under the bus? We don't do that here. In the corporate world, it is very, for better or for worse, it's individually focused. Teamwork is in name only. Um, you can get small groups together that have good rapport and work well together.
yeah.
But it's not the consequences aren't life and death. And so there's no
Yeah.
need for the corporate world to be like the military. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm not
That's
saying
the
and
that's
we're
the
not
reason
and
for the
yeah, and we're
places,
not
man.
saying that the military ideals should be what corporate or what any organization should be like. But the problem was to your question, like what just the drastic difference, what she had in that instance, what she had done was like high treason, kind of, what she had done was kind of like high treason. And so I reacted to it in that way. And then, by the way, I blew off my fucking boss. Like he was like, "Don't go up there." Don't. He's trying to save my job, And I completely said, I didn't say fuck you, but without saying it, I did. I was like, "You're nothing. I'm gonna go handle this." And so
I was taking my clip off and go, you have
clip on
and I
to
walk up
clip
there.
on bow tie. So So by now it I still have those moments. I do still have moments where someone sends something across and I'm like, I'm rolling my eyes or I'm like, I'm gonna take a couple, I'm gonna take a day, I'm gonna take a beat to respond to this person. Um, because I that still happens to me. Not as strong because with more time, with more time, honestly, I care less because I just realized that the stakes are so stupid. You know, it's like, we sell software, or we're a consulting firm, or this company sells insurance. Any place I've ever worked,
Yeah.
it's like it's like it's not worth it to me to get so worked up over this. You know, um, so I still deal with it.
It's
Is
not a
the
firefight, is what I say.
Yeah, it's not a fire. Like if I get revved up, like I'm the only person who suffers. The other person, you more or less, that's who they are. They're fucking clueless. They're a piece of shit. That's just who they are. And there's really nothing that's going to change that. And certainly I'm probably not going to change that. So so, you know,
Don't waste your time.
don't waste my time.
I
Enough
did,
about me. We're talking about you.
yes. But I
So
feel like you need to get that out. So that
I feel like you're still kind of raging about that. Um, but I think that shows that like I'm still it's been 10 plus years and I'm still transitioning out. And a lot of dudes I talk to, friends, you, others, they'll be like, "Oh, Patrick's got it. It looks like Patrick's got it figured out, you know. He's got like a really important job at that company and he does XYZ." And it's like I'm still always and forever, for better or for worse, inside the same dude that was, a team leader in first platoon. And I'm still trying to figure out how all this works. Um, and that can be a good thing. And sometimes it's not a good thing. And I'm sure it's the same for you, you know, like,
no, it is. But you know why it is, I think too, is because there's guys in at least in battalion, because that's all I knew. I never knew. Oh, neither did you. We never really experienced the other side of the big army side.
mhm,
So, um, but we knew, and I've known you since the first day we got there, that you followed orders, man. You did what you were told to the best of your ability. You never gave excuses. You gave it 100%, and if you failed your 100%, and they say something to you, you wouldn't get upset about it. Not with them, you get up with yourself, and you do better. You know what I mean? And so, I try to do the same thing, and a lot of guys do, but then there's guys that they don't care. They'll give you 50% or whatever. They'll take the ass chewing, or they'll mind if somebody else pays for it, whatever. And those people exist in special operations, and I know for sure in the big army side.
mhm,
So people like you, maybe like me, when we get out, we try to implement that into our new job. You know what I mean? That I'm gonna give 100%, and if I fail, it's my fault, and I will do better. And so that's your mentality going to it. But then you got people like old girl over there, they probably don't do that. And you're like, you're gonna tell me, you know what I mean? That I'm wrong. You know what I mean? It's like, and another thing is, in the military, is guys like, to me, everybody in the military that I had as a team leader or a squad leader, or that I saw in leadership positions, they were the coolest people. Like, I want to be like that guy. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be, you know, I want to be commanding like that dude is. And when you get out, I don't see people like that. I just see, everybody that I've worked with since I've got out will find an excuse for everything. Nobody takes ownership for their mistakes, or they try to blame it on somebody else, or they look for sympathy. You know what I mean? Mind you, I don't work in, like the corporate side. I work more in where if you make a mistake, it's seen right there and then. All the way from construction to, well, it's construction. You know what I mean? So
mhm.
you'll see it. And he said, "Well, no, man, you're the one on that, on that project. How did it go wrong? Oh, these guys don't know this guy. It was you. You know what I mean?
Right. I
The
mean,
accountability part.
I think the way I ultimately feel is that, I don't. I don't hold up military service as, I'm not saying you do, but for my personal philosophy now is there were good things and bad. I think this is basically what you were just saying. There are good things and bad things there. There are good things. There are plenty of bad, but there are some good things about, life outside the military. There are plenty of good things about
Oh
life
yeah,
outside the military. And so I try as best I can try to marry the two. And I find success. I do, when I'm working, I think people see I think people can see in a lot of veterans, and we're getting close on time here, but I think people can see in veterans like a willingness to focus in on the mission, right? To get the
yep,
job done and to
yep,
put egos aside, at least in to get the job done.
yes,
At the end of it, when it's all said and done, we can talk about accolades and who
yeah,
gets credit and all that stuff, and that's a problem even in the military. But at least like when it's time to work, I think a lot
yep.
of folks like that. They see that in
Oh
veterans
yeah,
it's helpful. And I know you and I are talking about what you're doing at work, that's basically like your model. It's like, hey, we're working, whether I
yeah,
like you personally or not. Let's get the job done. Let's do it the best we
exactly.
can, and then we'll figure out all the other shit in the hot wash, right?
Mhm.
Afterwards. And so people appreciate that, and people appreciate vets can be too real sometimes and too honest.
Yeah,
But I think people do like that there's some people talk about authenticity lately. Like bring your authentic self to work. And so it's a big thing. Well, you did a great job overall. We're out of time now. You did a good job of getting me monologuing to steal
yeah.
like 6 minutes of your time here. So well done to you. This will not be the last time we see you. Thank you again. Um, I appreciate you doing this.
Yes,
And
sir.
thank you all for listening. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.